How's it going, folks? CR here. So I'm going to be responding again and continuing on this conversation with Chick Mick. Chick, I'm going to go over your comment and give you the response, man. Hey, folks, again, as I say, if you guys are commenting, I might be able to respond to your comments as well. But again, I'm going to continue on this conversation with Chick. Hey, Chick, I can understand you being against open borders, enough with JoJo to make this a deal breaker. But I imagine that every political party has, some sort of deal breakers. I don't agree with JoJo's open borders. I'm vehemently against that. On the whole anti-racist thing, I've got to say, man, I think we are against the anti-racist. I think it's for different reasons. Anti-racists should really just call themselves racist of another stripe. I don't support that either way. But then you have, with the way you've mentioned white this and white that too much, as much as you have, I should say, I get the feeling that you don't support them on the grounds that they just are breaking in favor of a race other than white people. Neither one I support, by the way. You say you don't support capitalism either. Well, we'll continue on capitalism. Capitalism is going to be one of the themes throughout this comment that I discuss. You said one example was the military-industrial complex. Yeah, I agree that business has gotten really powerful in this country, and they hold some sway. I don't think they're the entirety of the reason for all the wars overseas. And, dude, nationalizing the weapons industry is not something you want to do for a number of reasons. One, it's not going to solve this problem. Two, there are quite a few other reasons as to why you don't want to nationalize, and you're actually going to say one of your other viewpoints, which I agree with, but if you nationalize the weapons industry, well, we'll get into that, a little later on down the comments. Vietnam was pretty much about selling helicopters. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I do believe that, in the Cold War there was a clash of influences, and, we were fighting against the Soviets for control of influence throughout the entire world. And I think Vietnam was just another conflict where we were fighting for control of that influence. You suspect that's the reason we've been in Afghanistan for 20 years and nobody can explain why. Well, I can tell you my thoughts on Afghanistan as to why we've been there for 20 years, and simply put, we're pushing for objectives that are unattainable. And, I agree with you. We should have, if we're going in there, should have done what we needed to do and then bring our soldiers home. You're not going to change the culture of that country. The fact of the matter is that war fighting has been in their culture for quite some time. They have an entirely different culture to us, and we're not going to be able to build them up and make them anything comparable to the West. And we're draining our resources. We're spinning our wheels trying to do that. You want to talk about the other wars we've been lobbied for by the Israelis and the corporate media. Almost all of MSNBC is owned. MSN is owned by the chosen people. I know what you're talking about when you say that, dude. Even if they were almost all or 100% owned by the Jewish people, I don't think that them being Jewish, is the bad thing here. And I agree. We should definitely get foreign governments out of our government, so to speak. I think foreign governments should be limited to their diplomatic envoys, and that's it. I don't think they should be lobbying our members of Congress or anything like that, so I agree there. So they push their propaganda, examples you give: Iraq has WMDs, Assad gases on people, and Iran is a terrorist state. All right, well, here's the thing. Even though it was not reported on, we did, it wasn't widely reported on, but we did find some chemical weapons in Iraq. Assad, I don't believe that he gases on people. The information we got on that is not credible, not reliable at all. Iran is a terrorist state. Iran, they're an authoritarian state, and they backed non-state partisan actors that have engaged in terrorist acts. So Iran does fund some of this stuff. Now, for Iraq and Iran, you can argue, okay, is this good enough reason to do a forcible regime change? I think you'd have merits arguing against using our army to make a regime change there, just over those reasons. But at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is that you also have to acknowledge facts to where they are. There's a better system than just communism and capitalism. We don't have to choose between the lessest of the two evils. I presume on this one you're solely talking about the economic side of communism. Capitalism, it's an economic policy as well. Well, you've discussed our founders, we've discussed our founders. The thing about a free market is that it puts less power in the hands of our government, and our founders wanted to limit the amount of power our government has within its hands. A free market does just that, but not only that, a free market is great for economic prosperity all around the board. The problem is when government gets its hands in the free market, or you have a few powerful corporations that go in there and lobby the government to wield power that they didn't have in the first place. This is my problem. This is why I think we're having more crony capitalism, which is really not capitalism. It's the government getting involved at that point. But I think the reason why we have the crony capitalism issues because we've let Congress buy and sell power mainly sell off power that wasn't theirs to wield in the first place. On the Second Amendment, you say you're a Second Amendment absolutist. All right, so harkening back on the point you made earlier, you were saying we have to nationalize our weapons industry. Well, if you're a Second Amendment absolutist, the last thing you want is to have the government in control of the actual weapons industry itself. Reason why? You get some Francis or some Dianne Feinstein or some Joe Biden in office, all they have to do at that point is appoint a director of the national weapons industry that will put in policy saying, well, we are not selling anything but, say, a 22 LR to civilians. And that is how easy it is at that point for them to strip you of your legal ability to keep and bear arms. Yeah, I mean, you say we shouldn't have any restrictions at all, including permits. I agree. We need to get rid of all these unconstitutional restrictions. So far, they haven't done anything for us, and all they've done and all they've really done is serve a means to put otherwise law-abiding citizens in jail or restrict our freedoms. I agree with you. If somebody did something so bad that they shouldn't have a gun, that maybe life in prison or the death penalty might be something. However, also there's another class of people who probably shouldn't have guns, but they haven't done anything to earn the death penalty or life in prison. However, I'm going to say right now, those people, if they shouldn't have a gun, I mean, there's a lot of things they shouldn't have. I mean, automobiles being another example of one of the things they shouldn't have if they're too irresponsible to own a firearm. But unfortunately, I mean, this is not a perfect world, and we can't go around making it a perfect world. Things that are being proposed in many of these cases are actually worse than the aimed for goal. So you even go as far as to say you'll bring back consensual, you support bringing back consensual dueling, although you doubt it will ever happen. Yeah, I kind of doubt that will ever happen too. And there's just a number of reasons for it. You say drugs, on the other hand, should be illegal. You're willing to support bringing back dueling that's consensual, but drugs should be illegal? That don't make a lot of sense to me. You go on to say the war on drugs, and you put this in quotation marks, is bullshit. You say they were selling weapons and cocaine to the cartels, and you say we need a real war on drugs, stop wasting our time in the Middle East and the other 200 countries we're in, and use our soldiers to hunt these fuckers down and kill them. I don't know if we have 200 other countries in the world. I know it's close to 200. I don't have the exact count, but yeah, I mean, I get you're being hyperbolic with that. But the thing is here, dude, you're suggesting we, instead of fighting in the Middle East, fight these wars in all these countries where the drugs are. And by the way, Afghanistan does have quite a bit of opium fields too. It's not just in South America. I'm sure you already knew that, though. But the thing is, you want to make this war on drugs a real one. You're going to get results very similar to what we've been seeing in the Middle East, man. That's just how it's going to be. First off, like many of these insurgency and Islamo-fascist groups you'll see in the Middle East, you're going to see people in the narco states that support the cartel. You're going to be fighting another fourth-generation war there. The cartels are also not going to come out there and fight you directly. The only thing they're going to do is if they see a patrol of yours that they think they can overwhelm and ambush and cut down, yeah, they'll do it then, but shortly thereafter they're going to disappear back out to the country and, go back to blending in with the population. So basically, we could have real war on drugs, like you're suggesting. And by the way, we do have some of our troops in some of these countries that have issues with the cartels. That in and of itself hasn't stopped the trade. I don't know that it's even slowing it down. But what you're talking about doing is doing what we're doing in the Middle East. Instead, do it in countries that have a large influence from the cartel. And again, as I say, man, you're going to get very similar results to what we're seeing in the Middle East. Body bags are going to fill up. It's going to be incredibly costful. We're going to be spending a lot of money on things other than just military force. Obviously, we're going to be fighting for the hearts and minds of the people there too. So guess what we're also going to be doing? We're going to end up having to build roads, schools, and stuff like that because we're competing with the cartels for the hearts and minds of the people there at that point. You know. You say drugs are destroying lives and communities. I agree that drugs are not the best choice. You know. Unfortunately, there's not a crime in somebody lighting up a joint or anything like that. You know, and part of it, being a free nation is, even though somebody's not making the best choices in life, doesn't mean we make those choices illegal. Furthermore, the libertarians aren't just merely suggesting we do nothing on the war of drugs. Libertarians like me say that yes, we should legalize them 100%. You know, let the private sector here in the U.S. get into the business of trading drugs, distributing drugs, and all that other stuff. Let them deal with it, and that way, instead of people spending money on drugs that are imported from those nations that have problems with the cartels, they spend the money on the American market. They take that money out of the cartel's hands, and that will hurt the cartels way more in the long run. All right. Yeah, you know what? I mean, there are Americans that are going to be doped out. The war on drugs, criminalizing drugs hasn't stopped that. Part of being a free country is you're going to have people that are doped out and homeless, dude. You can't make everybody make the right choices in life. And quite frankly, I am willing to accept that, because, I didn't make the choice for them to make those bad choices that they made. You're talking about people who commit suicide, dying from accidental overdose. Yeah, it's sad to see, man, but, that's going to end up, that happens anyway. I mean, people commit suicide for more things than just drugs, and, dying from an accidental overdose, I'm sorry, but that's not, while it is tragic, it's not my fault or my problem. Now, or we have a veteran, suicide rate that's, not the most, not the one that we should be proudest of. I'm not happy with the veteran suicide rate as is, but again, as I say, we have resources to try to help them, and we should continue to put resources out there to try to help people, veterans, or anybody who's struggling with that. I'm in favor of doing that. We should also stop putting misdemeanors on background checks. I never had a drug charge, but understand how it makes it hard to get a job and fix your life afterwards. Well, I can understand not putting every single misdemeanor on the background check, but then you're starting to pick and choose. On that one, there are certain misdemeanors that you want on the background checks. If I'm hiring somebody to be in charge of a large amount of inventory, I would like to know whether or not they have a misdemeanor shoplifting on their record or a misdemeanor theft on their record. You know, if a business owner is hiring somebody to be a clerk of their store, it's nice to know what that person, to know whether or not that person has a misdemeanor theft charge on them. And I understand that, you know, while that is pertinent to that job, maybe something like smoking dope back in college or smoking dope back in high school is irrelevant. But I think juvenile records are already sealed. But with this being said, when you say, you know, we should stop putting misdemeanors on background checks, you know, you cut that out too, and quite frankly, I think, you know, that's one of the things employers should actually know. All right, so you quote me to say, how's that any different from Black Lives Matter? And then you go to say, you mean the communist group that keeps burning our cities down and committing acts of terrorism and demand the destruction of the nuclear family on their platform. Let me reiterate the context I said when I said, how is that any different from Black Lives Matter? You have the National Justice Party. They are claiming they are there, you know, for the safety and well-being of white people. Black Lives Matter. Their main claim is they are doing this for the safety and well-being of black people. It's, in that regards, two sides to the same coin. Now, Black Lives Matter, you know, they're a bit older, you know, yeah, we found out later on that most of their heads are fucking commies. And yeah, they are engaging in rioting, looting, and things of that nature. Yeah, that part is true. The NJP, obviously, are still a relatively new organization, and quite frankly, you know, they can't get away with the same things that Black Lives Matter does, just simply because Black Lives Matter's got a lot more support and a lot more influence. In fact, people who are completely innocent go to jail for defending themselves from Black Lives Matter, you know. So while, yeah, you know, and the respect that Black Lives Matter is a communist group that's rioting and looting, and, you know, the NJP, you know, is not. Yeah, that's a different, you know, that's a completely different aspect, but it's not in the same context as to what I said when I said, how is that any different from Black Lives Matter? All right, Mike and Stryker have had a lot of debates and other videos on YouTube, and if you want to know more about their views, they've been around for a while. I support them because they've decided to actually do something instead of just complain about it. We need a political party. Now we have one. But, I mean, do you really have one? I mean, I understand, again, they've got formed August 15th. But, again, they haven't laid out a more detailed platform, so how do you know it's your political party? You know, and furthermore, you know, I'm sorry, you know, it seemed like that party, as you said, was more fixated on race, you know, it just in their About Us section than I really care for it to be. At the very least, I hope we can make an impact against the anti-white communist bullshit in our government. We need representation in Congress and our local governments. Okay, well, here's the thing. Our local governments, you can get representation in your local governments. The thing is that you've got to actually get out there and vote in your local elections. You've got to get candidates to run in your local elections that would represent you. Now, with Congress, I understand that with a specific amendment to the Constitution, I can't remember which one is off the top of my head, but we limited our number of representatives in the House of Representatives, so now it's going just to redistricting, which I don't like that at all. That did take away a lot of our representation. However, I can understand the reason why they would limit the number of people who could be in the House of Representatives, just because if we did it now, based on how we originally did it, we'd have far more representatives in the House, and there'd be a lot more, the votes would take a lot more time. So, I mean, this is, again, as I say, a reason as to why our federal government probably shouldn't have as much influence over our lives as individual citizens as they do. You say you're a nationalist, not a racialist. You don't consider Canadians and Brits Americans. I mean, both can agree. I'm stricter than most people when it comes to this, because I use the same standard that every other country has. If you're not related to the people who established the country and your ancestors didn't integrate, you're not an American in my view. Okay, I can understand. I understand that view. In fact, it's in and of itself on the surface a mostly pretty good view. The fact of the matter is that we've had several people here who've been in this country, had family in this country for generations, who have integrated a long time ago. That being said, that would be true of people of every race. Americans of every single race. So, I mean, the whole fixation on white, is kind of pointless at this point. Given that being your views. Because, again, we've had black people who've been in this country for generations who have integrated and are actually American. We have Asians, ditto for them. We have Hispanics, same thing there. We do have people who immigrate from other countries, for better or for worse. I personally think that we should be more restrictive on our immigration. I think that people should not be allowed to immigrate here unless they are willing, unless they are already willing to integrate, and they're immigrating here for the right reasons. I think people should be free to leave this country as well. I think there are a lot of people in this country that, well, unfortunately, due to our legal system, we can't say, okay, you know what, you really don't like it here. You said this country is one that's doing it right. There you go. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Prime example. The other night I got into an argument with a communist on another platform, and this communist sat there and said, to somebody else, hey, if we just moved to Cuba, we'd be free. And you had a bunch of other people jump on and say, hey, I'll pay for that plane ticket. I think I responded, hey, as long as you renounce your U.S. citizenship as soon as you get to Cuba. But no, I mean, this dude, thinks things are better in Cuba and thinks things are free in Cuba. Well, I say let the motherfucker move there. Take his, have him renounce his citizenship as soon as he gets there, and there you have it. With that being said, however, there are people who immigrate here and I think have a better idea of what an American should be than some of the people we have here. I see some people who are Americans who were born in the U.S. who absolutely hate this country, who absolutely despise this country, and don't have a clue how any other country is. Meanwhile, I know people who have immigrated here from other countries who have, in my opinion, more of a claim to being American than these people do. Because some of these people who immigrated here actually worked with us, in foreign wars. These people either fought alongside our soldiers or supported a more free state in their country, and they had to be evacuated because they couldn't live in their home country anymore. And these people have a stronger support for the American way of life than most of our own people here do. I mean, how many people have you noticed that go around with their heads up their asses, dude, and wouldn't care either way, every time Congress passes a bill that further infringes on their freedom and further violates the Constitution? So, some of this other stuff we're kind of in agreement with. Dude, again, as I say, I'm against mass immigration. I've already said that. I'm more in support of our culture. The whole declining birth rate thing. However, I think that's something that's a natural process. And, dude, we should want the birth rates to go down a little bit. And we should, not support mass immigration. I mean, there's only so much population a nation can have before they lose that aspect of their country's identity. I really don't want to see us getting quite so urbanized as Europe is. In fact, you look at where our worst problems are occurring in this country, and they're in places with the highest population density, dude. You want to know where all the people are who hate this country? They're in parts of the country with the highest population densities. So I really don't think we need to be adding to that problem. Fighting back against the destruction of our nation isn't the same as giving up liberty for security, and even if it was, it doesn't matter. Our highest priority is survival. Nothing else matters right now. Well, fighting back against the destruction of your nation, like giving up liberty for security, or, those pretenses are very similar. The fact that you're giving up liberty, as part of fighting back against the destruction of your nation can be used in the same way as, giving up liberty for fighting for your security. Somebody who's interested in power could use either pretense as a justification to permanently strip you of your liberty. That's the point. So, yeah. And yes, it does matter to me. Part of our survival, the survival of our way of life, is maintaining our liberty. Yeah, and this is the thing where we really differ. I mean, you believe that there's some sort of white genocide going on, and you're more concerned about the survival of white Americans, as you put it, than you are with our liberty. Well, look, we're going to survive just fine. I'm not worried about that. What I am worried about is our liberty. One, you know, being alive in a world where you don't have freedom, you know, well, that in and of itself to me is pretty shitty too. I mean, you know, what is the point to even living if you can't be free? You know, do you really want to exist? You know, do you really want to give up every liberty you have just to merely exist? Second, that liberty, that value of liberty is what makes America unique to the world. Plain and simple. Your point is that, yeah, as you say, your point is civil war is inevitable and overdue. You say you don't want it to happen. The last one left 700,000 dead. Okay, you're close on the numbers. Serious tragedy. Another famous quote I wish I could remember was, who said it, was, if war's to come, let it happen as soon. I hope it comes soon so that my sons do not have to fight it, and I agree with that. Okay, so I understand that point. You know, it's no parent wants to push a war off to their children that they could have fought on their own. For some reason, you don't seem to understand that it's the only way to get rid of tyrants and communists. The only way to get rid of tyrants and communists is by force. It's going to happen no matter how we feel about it. I hope it comes soon. The left is pretty much trying to start one now. If they ban guns like they wanted to then the right would start one. All right, so again, I don't think you fully understand the gravity of the situation. Yes, I'm very well aware that a civil war may be inevitable, you know. And quite frankly, there are other ways, though, to stop communists and tyrants. One of those ways is just not letting them have the power to begin with. Unfortunately, we've started down that road. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, if you hope it happens soon, I'm just going to say right now, well, it's going to be a lot worse than you think. The left is doing the beginning phases of it. Yes, this destabilization, or what they're doing right now is currently trying to destabilize the legitimate government, specifically because that is the first step to an insurgency. Well, not the first step, but one of the first few steps. And you notice that they're doing it in a fashion that's really limited. They're doing as much as they can get away with right now. Now, again, as I say, yeah, civil war may very well be inevitable at this point, but, you know, again, you know, I don't think that you fully understand the gravity of this situation, man. I really don't. I don't think many people who are talking about a civil war fully understand the gravity of what that will entail. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you all for watching. You all have a great day out there, and guys, remember the comments.